Hey, hope everybody's doing great. Welcome to the channel. If you're new here, I just want to kind of talk about some of the things that's been going on. And I know you guys have probably heard about the government shutdown and also the inflation and certain things going up. And I want to touch on a few topics, one of which is I thought about the movie you might have seen in the 80s called The Gremlins, okay? And one of the things one of the old guys in there said was very interesting. He talked about why he drives that old truck and why he doesn't buy anything electronically.
Gremlins. You got to watch out for the foreigners because they plant gremlins in their machinery. That's the same gremlins brought down our planes in the big one.
Big one.
That's right. World War II. Good old WWII. You know, they're still shipping them over here. They put them in the cars, they put them in the TV, they put them in the stereos and the radios you stick in your ears, they put them in your watches. They got little teeny gremlins for watches.
I don't think it's such a good idea that you...
And what he had mentioned was that they put gremlins in the machines. And that's kind of the premise of one part of this conversation. I might break this up into two videos, but...
Okay. Turn off the faucets. And I'll tell you what to do.
Do?
Yes, do. Or would you rather hide in your hole and hope for the best? Pull the plug, lady. Pull all the plug. Disconnect yourself. Fast. And not just up there at the top of the pole. That don't mean nothing. It don't just crawl in on your wires. That ain't a thing. It's a signal. Pulse. Kinda like a voice. So what you've got to do is to get rid of anything in your house that might have ears to hear it. Me, I'm back to wood fires and kerosene lamps.
Gremlins in the machine. Me personally, I noticed that I use a lot of equipment and electronics, and I noticed at times things will break down and kind of either just stop working immediately. Now, as of late, I've noticed that newer things are beginning to break down, are beginning to not last as long. And I kind of crack these things open from time to time, kind of look to see what's inside of them. And I noticed that the way they design these boards and electronics, they don't use thick enough wire. And I also noticed that in the electronics, they might put a capacitor in there or a fuse in there that's significantly lower than what maybe the circuit can handle. And most people are not going to open up the device and change a fuse or change a capacitor, because sometimes that requires soldering. And so I'm mentioning this to say I understand the concept of planned obsolescence. And what if you don't know what that is, that's how companies who manufacture products hedge their bets for the future. What am I saying? They will make something last a certain amount of time. Let's say it could be a vehicle, it could be a lawnmower. And I recently had a lawnmower break down on me, but that Briggs & Stratton lawnmower was a great mower. It had to last as long as I've had my home. So, but I noticed that I bought one lawnmower and it broke down immediately. And when I opened it up, it had a bunch of cheap parts inside. And this is not a cheap mower. This is like a $200 or $300 mower on Walmart. Okay, so this is a LawnMaster lawnmower. And if anybody has had positive results from this lawnmower, please let me know in the comment section. But it had to be no more than 10 minutes after that I was plugging in and running it that it malfunctioned. And let me show you the inside. So they have a motor mount right here, and it runs about 1,000 watts, and that's kind of high for me anyway. So, but as you can see, it has plastic innards, and this is what really killed me about this. This is a literal sandbag, okay? And the only thing that this sandbag does is add weight. Now, I figured out that the shell is all plastic, and the blade is actually pretty nice. It's a smaller size lawnmower, And I really like the blade. I like the design for it. It's adjustable height. But it just stopped working. The motor burned out. And let me show you the motor real quick. Pull it out. So I got a bag of parts. And I'm going to show you what happened and why this lawnmower is no longer operational. Just to let you know, the motor melted. Okay? And this is what happened. So because of this happening to me, it inspired a new project that I'm actually working on, and videos will be coming out soon. This is what I mean by Gremlins in the machine. The actual motor brush mount is melted. I mean, why would you make this part into plastic? I don't know, but let's talk about more of this in the video. And when I opened it up, it had a big sandbag in it, and I know that companies use those sandbags, and as I'm talking, I try to leave some pictures to kind of add weight to devices, and sometimes they add actual steel plates into like game consoles and things of that nature. And so what I noticed is the motor mounts for the motor brushes, which is these little magnet things that hold the motor, burnt out because the housing was made of plastic. Now obviously you would know that if something overheats, it's gonna melt the plastic. And so, well, the result was it was a plug-in mower, because my Briggs and Stratton mower broke down, and it's probably some electronic. Usually it's an electronic part. Yes, gas lawnmowers have electronic parts. That's usually hooked up to some sort of CDI that creates spark during rotation. That's where you pull the cord and create the rotation or whatever. But long story short is what I'm discussing this is about is I noticed that products, as they break down more on me, I noticed that they were made more cheaply. Maybe they used cheaper wire. I noticed when I open up electronics, connections are not soldered. They're barely hanging on. And I think a lot of this is done cheaply so companies can save money, and done quickly, cheaply, and it just doesn't last as long. And so the movie Gremlins really came to my mind because the old man was correct. The gremlin is machine is that little ticking time bomb that's in everything we buy today that's going to wear out. And it used to be something will last at least 5 years. And I don't know about you guys out there. Have you noticed that when you buy something brand new, you may spend hundreds of dollars, even thousands of dollars on something, and it breaks down? And I know the automobile industry is kind of being the same thing. Even the newer thermostats are these big plastic hunks of plastic, and you know, a thermostat used to be like this little metal spring thing. You could change them out when you needed a new one, but now they're making it so you can't even work on your own vehicle. So I mentioned in this video to say I do recognize what's going on, and it is a way for companies to hedge their bets in the future. In other words, in order to count on you to fund their company by buying more of their crap. And what I'm essentially saying is, when does it stop? And so me, I'm kind of savvy, and I can repair almost 80%, and there's strong 20 that never gets repaired that I run into, that I can fix and use. And I just kind of handy that way. I know soldering, I know a little bit of manufacturing, so I can make something that's broken work again. But sometimes it's not expedient as far as time. You know, sometimes the time it would take to fix something is not worth keeping it around, and so you break it down to scrap it for parts. And I put several videos, and I might leave some up here, where I've broken down printers and all sorts of stuff. So this is part 1 of Gremlins in the Machine, and then we're going to talk about part 2.